We are now entering Zach's mind.
Code Red, Code Red. Zach is trying to learn something new, but he has zoned out. It's up to us now, guys. Oh, come on, get it together. Alright, let's start with the topic. Stochastic state transitions give rise to phenotypic equilibrium in populations of cancer cells. Well, I have no idea what that means. Hopefully the text will make this clear. Okay, first things first. Populations of cells, both normal and cancerous, exhibit relatively fixed proportions of different types of cells. Even if these proportions are disturbed by some outside force, such as a cancer-fighting drug, the populations will return to the original proportions, which has puzzled scientists for years. In the specific populations studied by these researchers, cancerous epithelial cells, there were 3 different types of cells: basal, luminal, and stem-like. The prevailing theory for how cell populations re-established proportions was that signals between cells would affect the rate at which different types of cells divided, thus changing how quickly the population of each cell type grew, re-establishing the original proportions over time. However, this article suggests that cell division rates actually remain constant, and the cancer cells are able to interconvert, or change, between the different types as needed to re-establish the proportions. The researchers tested this by isolating each of the different cell types and observing how the cell populations changed. Surprisingly, the isolated cell types quickly returned to the original equilibrium proportions. The researchers noticed that the cell populations returned to equilibrium too quickly for it to be accounted for by different cell division rates, as was previously thought. Oh, looks like Zach has come out of it. I think we're done here, guys. Okay, now all this talk about interconversion and equilibrium is great, but why is this word stochastic in the title of the article? Well, basically, a stochastic process is one that changes randomly with time. A familiar example is the stock market, which, as you can see from this diagram, depends on multiple factors. Now, the thing about a stochastic process is that it's difficult or almost impossible to predict how it will change with time. Yet, somehow the researchers in this study were able to predict and make calculations about how the cell types would change over time if left alone. That's because they used a simplification of the stochastic process called a Markov model, which assumes that the future state of the system, in this case a cell, depends only on its current state, not how it got to that current state. That's how the researchers were able to make calculations and predictions of how the cells would change over time. Now, as we near the end of the video, I wanted to demonstrate a Markov model by using this homemade pegboard here and a bucket of marbles. In this example, the marbles represent an isolated cell type population. Let's assume in this case a basal cell. Now, although the proportions were different in the study, let's just assume that's approximately 80% is going to turn into basal cell, 10% into luminal cell, and 10% to stem-like, just for the sake of simplicity. Now, if I pour these marbles into the pegboard, they should randomly sort themselves out into proportions, similar to how the cells do in the populations. Let's go. Now, this was a homemade pegboard. That didn't work exactly as planned, but you can still see the point, because if you come over and see here, you can see that the marbles randomly sorted themselves based on the proportions that probabilities that they would change in different types of cells into approximately 80%, 10%, 10%. This is just a simple homemade demonstration of what a Markov model actually is. Now, you may be wondering why this study is important. In fact, for lack of a better word, it's ridiculously important. As you know, some patients may experience remission after being treated for cancer, and this study might explain why. For if a drug only targets certain types of cells present, for example, destroys that one, and destroys basal cells, and yet leaves only one type of cell present in the tumor, in this case a luminal cell, then according to this study, this population of luminal cells could re-establish the original proportions, and thus the original tumor. Therefore, this study has initiated multiple further studies into new types of therapies and new types of drugs that could be used to treat cancer by targeting all the cell types present. Well, that's all I have for you today, so thanks for watching.